Well, we met at Old Chicago. I had been working, it was his first day, and I had to train him. I was the hostess, so he had to do hostess training. He came up to me and I thought he looked super young. And so then I asked him, how old are you, like 19? And he said, no, I'm 24, in his super deep voice, and it took me by surprise. And also his name was interesting. I kept calling him America for a little bit because I didn't really understand. But that's how we first met. But we were really good friends for about a year until we started dating.
I don't know, I always thought she was pretty, but I don't know. I didn't think she was really in my league, I guess, for a long time.
I thought he was cute, but he smoked cigarettes, and I wasn't into that. But he doesn't anymore. I think that was the way that I started getting I wanted to date him at that point when he stopped smoking, because that wasn't a thing that I was ever into. But yeah, he was always super cute. And we were like really good friends. I found myself like trying to switch my schedule at work to work more on his shifts so we could work together, because I only really wanted to go to work when I knew he was working too.
We didn't date or anything for over a year, I think, while we worked together, and got to know each other pretty well. And her mom actually set us up, kind of, because she told her mom one time that
I thought you were cute.
Yeah, that you thought I was cute.
And so then I came into the restaurant with her, and he was working at the time. And we were sitting on the patio, and then she calls Marek over to her and sits him down and says, Marek, you should go on a date with CJ. She thinks you're hot. And so that was mortifying. But, yeah. And then apparently it must have worked or something, because then he started hanging out with me more, and then he thought it was going to be a date, but then I invited everybody Old Chicago to a movie.
I was under the impression that we were, going out, like, whatever, on an actual date and stuff.
I thought that it was more of a pity date, because it was right after my mom did all that stuff, and he never really approached me. So then he's like, oh, do you want to go hang out and see Despicable Me? She
was like, oh, hey, Chase is coming too. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I invited a couple other people, and there was like, I don't know, 6 of us maybe that went out to this movie. And then, I was gonna sit by her, but then I was like, well, if she invited like another guy or whatever, maybe I won't or whatever. So I just kind of got in my own head and stuff. And then so I didn't sit by her.
I went into there first, and I thought that he would come and sit next to me, because maybe. But then I knew then I really thought it was a pity date, because then he didn't even sit next to me.
Well, she was like at the front of the group too, so she went like through the chairs and all the way to the other side, and I was like, I wasn't gonna like butt through everybody and be like, yeah, no way, I gotta sit next to this girl.
Then we had our first alone date at Buzzard Billy's.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous. I mean, we had been out, we had been friends for over a year at that time, and we had been out with friends and everything like that for a couple times anyway.
And then I knew that he actually liked me, because he kept trying to hold my hands, and like whenever I would be doing something, he'd always be staring at me, and I'd always catch him doing that. So I knew that he really liked me at that point. And then I think it was a few weeks later after that point that he told me that he loved me in the middle of a fight. I had gone over for a 4th of July party. My friend wanted to leave and go somewhere else, and then for some reason I decided to come back.
Somehow we ended up on the back deck, and we were just talking, and then everyone else just slowly disappeared, and next thing we know, like, the sun was coming up and stuff like that.
And then he just kissed me randomly. Just kept leaning in towards me and kissed me. So then I was kind of taken aback. I went like this a little bit, but then, sparks flew, as Marek would say.
I saw the sun was coming up, and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna make a move, I should probably do it before, the next day starts. And so then I don't know, I just, leaned over and kissed her, and then, the rest was history. Yeah, so I told her that day, because I worked for my dad at the time, and I told her that I had to go do some errand for him in Omaha. So I had the ring already. I went up to Omaha. I checked into our hotel early, and I set up the room. I got roses and candles and stuff like that, and I set up the room, and then you know, I talked to the front desk people. I was like, hey, so we're gonna come back and check in later, but you have to act like I was never here in the first place. And so like the guy left a little note for the girl oncoming shift, and then
I fall asleep whenever we're in the car. So he had picked me up and we were driving up to our hotel room. I fell asleep. And I fell asleep on where he was keeping the ring, which is in the console. So he was just super nervous about trying to get it out of there. So he tried to get it out of there while I was sleeping, and I kind of woke up during it. But then when we were getting out of the car, I noticed this big bulge in his pocket. And I was gonna playfully hit it, so I'm really glad that I didn't. But when we went in there, when we went to go check in, I definitely saw that he was very nervous because this girl wasn't really understanding what was going on. She had lost our reservation and didn't know anything about it, but then all of a sudden it clicked.
yeah, so when we came up the elevator, the doors opened, and then I was like, okay, this is really happening now. We're walking to the room, and she's like walking, and I'm just like, you know, thinking, like going over in my head, like what I'm gonna say, you know, like rehearsing my lines and everything, and then
You creepily walked behind me.
yeah, she was walking, and so I was like creeping behind
Yeah,
her, like
just right behind me walking. I said, well, that's weird. He usually walks right beside
yeah.
me.
She like, you know, gets to the door, and I'm like trying to hang back a little bit because I wanted to leave enough room that she could open the door, and then I could, you know, kind of come up behind her and stuff like that. So she opens the door, and it was like she thought that we were in the wrong room or something like that. She was like, oh, what is going on? And then she turns around and looks at me, and I'm on one knee at that point.
I didn't even let you finish.
Yeah, and I think I got like Cecilia willed, and then she pounced on me. I'm sure there's a few things.
It's not really annoying, but I think it's actually more cute, but I thought it was really weird when we first started dating. He calls all babies dewdrops, like baby animals. Like he calls our cats his like his little dewdrops. And so I'm like, okay, it's cute, but it's kind of weird. I don't really understand it.
Picking at my fingernails, I know that annoys her. I do it all the time.
I don't like it. I think it's gross.
She doesn't really exaggerate stories, but she leaves out like key details. So she like twists the story almost to make herself sound like better or something.
And he doesn't like that. So he will correct me. He's like, wait. Let's, you know, this is what happened.
You know, and then once you hear the whole story, then it kind of shifts the whole perspective a little bit.
I do really weird things. Like I like to touch his face weird, and I like to call him weird names and I'm just kind of weird. And so I think that annoys him too. He tries not to be mean about it, but I definitely annoy the crap out of him.
Last May, we went down to Florida to look for places to live and stuff, and we were gonna move like 2 months after that. So we went down to look at places. There's it's like Hy-Vee down there. It's called Publix. It's a grocery store. And she, you know, I don't know. I always make up like weird ways to say things usually. So I was always calling it Publix because I think it's funny. And she actually thought it was called Publix for a long time. And so she would like tell people like, oh yeah, so we live right here, right around the corner from Publix. And I'm just like cracking up. And eventually I had to tell her like, it's actually called Publix, you know, not Publix.
Well, when we first met, I only wanted to adopt. I didn't want to have any. Kind of terrified of childbirth.
We've discussed a lot of different scenarios. Plan is to have one of our own, and then maybe talk about adopting. We haven't decided for sure what we're gonna do.
He's a little worried about the whole adoption thing though. He's expressed that to me, but then also he's found out a lot more info. He looks up everything. He likes to know the ins and outs of everything. But I think that if something that I really want and I'm very adamant about, that he's gonna do it just because he loves me. That we were best friends before.
Yeah.
Because he's been my best friend for 3 years now.
Pretty much.
And every time I want to talk about, we just talk. We talk about everything. I mean, I got my wisdom teeth out, And the first person I called, because after I used one of those water picks to clean out stuff and gunk came out, I called him to tell him about it.
Yeah.
Even like gross things, I just want to tell him everything.
Yeah.
And then,
I was at work.
yeah, and on top of a ladder.
Yeah, I'm like on a ladder, like holding this thing up, like talking to her, and she's like telling me about this gross stuff that came out of her mouth. I'm like, really? That's awesome.
That's awesome. But we just talk about everything, and anything that happens to me, I just want to talk to him first. And then moving away definitely made us closer. We got time to go to school, figure out our lives, and then we're building something together. So it was so good for us to move away also. But mostly the best friend thing.
Yeah.
That's what keeps us together and makes us happy.
Yeah.